Welcome to my channel.
I'm letting you go, Nathan. That's what my boss said, smiling like it was a courtesy instead of a betrayal. It's nothing personal. Just business realignment. But we both knew what it was. Hi, I'm Nathan Cole, and last week I was CTO of one of the fastest growing fintech firms in North America. This week I was replaced by the CEO's daughter, Brooke. She had a business degree, sure, but no understanding of our infrastructure, our data pipelines, our real-time fraud prevention code, the system I architected from scratch. Still, she got my title, my team, my parking spot. They walked me out with a box of my things. Not even a thank you. So I walked across the street to a small cafe I used to visit before we went public. I ordered black coffee, sat by the window, and waited. By 10:13 a.m., their internal servers would begin rejecting authentication tokens. At 10:16, payment flow would freeze. By 10:21, their dashboard would show red across every core metric. I wasn't panicking. I was sipping. Because while they played games for power, I rewrote the rules of the platform. I didn't sabotage anything. I just stopped protecting it. For 4 years, I was the one holding the threads together, manually patching flawed updates, reversing her father's impulsive visionary pivots, and compensating for Brooke's half-baked implementation strategies. I told them we needed a full-scale architecture review. They said it was too expensive. I warned them our fraud detection logic was brittle under pressure. They said I was overthinking it. I built invisible fail-safes, not because I wanted revenge, but because I knew they'd never listen until something broke. And now, I'd walked away and the brakes were off. 10:16 a.m. Right on schedule. From my cafe window, I watched the reflection of their glass tower flicker. Lights dimmed floor by floor. Someone sprinted into the lobby with a phone glued to his ear. Probably ops. A moment later, Brooke appeared, heels clicking, eyes wide, panic all over her expensive beige suit. She was yelling into her phone, spinning in circles like that would solve anything. I stirred my coffee. My phone buzzed, unknown number. I answered without looking. Nathan, a voice said low and tense, we need you back. Now. I smiled faintly. I'm busy, I said. Try IT support. By noon, they'd shut down the payment API entirely. The news hadn't hit the media yet, but their biggest merchants were already tweeting about outages. Investors were calling. And the new CTO? She was in over her head, drowning in acronyms she didn't understand. I didn't watch with glee. Honestly, it just felt quiet. Like the moment right after a storm hits. Not loud, not dramatic, just truthfully broken. They'd made me the villain in the boardroom. Painted me as unscalable, too technical to lead. Brooke said she'd bring in fresh strategy. Her dad nodded like it was genius. They thought leadership was buzzwords. What they didn't understand was, I didn't need to crash the company. I just needed to stop saving it. At 12:43 p.m. I got another call. This one from HR. They offered a special consulting rate, triple my original salary, just for 1 week of help. I declined. At 1:02 p.m. the CEO called directly. I let it ring out. Then, at 1:17 a familiar number flashed across my screen. Brooke. I answered. She didn't even say hello. She just whispered, "What did you do?" I didn't answer her right away. Instead, I leaned back, watched a bus crawl past the cafe window, and listened to her breathing, short, erratic, unraveling. Finally I said, I did my job. Then I stopped doing yours. She hissed, "You're destroying the company." No, I replied calmly. I'm just not cleaning up your mistakes anymore. There was a pause. Then quieter, they're blaming me. I sipped my coffee. It had gone cold. You wanted the title, Brooke. Comes with consequences. But you knew, she started. I knew you'd assume I'd always catch the fall, I cut in. Because I always did. Until today. She was silent. Then carefully, what do you want? The real call. It wasn't about fixing anything. It was about control. I want acknowledgement, I said. Not in private. In print. A full statement to the board, the press, our investors, you name it. Tell them what really happened. You're serious? I've never been clearer. Another silence. Then, and if I do? Then I'll consider showing you where the kill switch is. The line stayed quiet for 6 more seconds. Then she said almost brokenly, I'll write it. Now she was learning. Tech doesn't betray you. People do. By morning, the headline hit every major tech outlet. CTO Nathan Cole was silenced. Now the company's paying the price. It wasn't written by Brooke, but it was authorized by her. I could tell. The tone was clean, measured, desperate to sound like accountability. They used words like oversight, leadership transition mishandling, and systems destabilized during restructuring. Not once did they say she caused it. But they did say I was the architect. They did say I warned them. And they did beg, publicly, for me to return in an advisory capacity. It wasn't enough. Not yet. I let it sit for 2 days while internal systems buckled harder. Merchant trust cratered. Payment delays hit national headlines. Stock dropped 17%. Employees started leaking Slack messages. At 3:12 p.m. on Friday, I got a new call. Unknown number again. I picked up. A man's voice said, "Mr. Cole, I'm with Alton Partners. We represent multiple board members. They're ready to talk discreetly." I closed my laptop and stood up. Where? Private suite. 47th floor. Park Central. Tonight. Tell them, I said, grabbing my coat, if she's in the room I don't walk in. Boss. She won't be. Then I'm listening. The suite was minimalist. Leather, glass, no clutter. Just power dressed in silence. 4 board members sat around a polished table. No handshakes. Just nods. The eldest one spoke first. "We underestimated your role in the system's stability." "You didn't underestimate me," I corrected. "You ignored me." He nodded, accepting the blow. Another added, "We'd like you to return as CTO." I shook my head. "I don't want the same title in the same structure." They waited. "I want full control of engineering, infrastructure, and product direction. I report to the board. No one else." "And the CEO's daughter?" "She never steps near tech again." Tension. One of them looked toward a legal folder on the table. "What about equity?" 30%, I said flatly. "Vesting immediately." They looked stunned. "That's cheap," I interrupted. "Compared to collapse." The room stayed silent. Calculating. Finally, the lead director spoke. "Done." No ceremony. No smiles. Just a transaction. I stood, nodded once, and turned to leave. He called after me. "Nathan, why'd you wait? You could have done this months ago." I paused in the doorway. Because power given is cheap. Power earned, they never forget. On Monday morning, I walked back into the office through the front entrance. No security badge. No escort. Just presence. People looked up from their desks, wide-eyed. The rumors had reached every floor, but seeing me, in person, calm, returned, made it real. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I walked straight past the glass-encased CTO office, where Brooke sat inside alone, ghost pale, staring at her screen. She didn't meet my eyes. Good. By noon, I was in a war room with engineering leads, laying out the real roadmap. We scrapped 2 years of misguided features. Rebuilt team structure. Brought back 3 former engineers Brooke had pushed out. I made one of them VP of Systems. The platform had survived, but barely. She tried to simplify complex architecture into bullet points, and nearly cost us everything. I didn't fire her. That would have been too easy. Instead, I gave her a meaningless innovation advisor title. No team. No budget. No voice. Her office was moved 2 floors down, next to facilities. Let her sit with her ambition. She got what she wanted, a seat at the top. But now the elevator doesn't stop on her floor. 6 months later, we launched the rebuild. New core infrastructure. Faster rails. Real-time fraud defense rewritten from the ground up. Press called it a return from the brink. Investors called it a masterstroke. But I didn't care about headlines anymore. What mattered was that the system worked, and the people building it trusted the architecture beneath them. One morning, I passed Brooke in the lobby. She was sitting alone, scrolling through her phone, pretending not to notice me. Her expensive shoes were worn at the edges now. No assistant followed. No one nodded when she walked by. She looked up as I neared. "Nathan," she said quietly, like we were still on first-name terms. I paused. She opened her mouth to speak, maybe an apology, maybe a plea. But I beat her to it. "You know the difference between legacy and leverage?" I asked calmly. She blinked. "What?" "Leverage is loud. Legacy is permanent." I turned and walked away. Behind me, her reflection in the glass blurred into the backdrop of a company she no longer belonged to. She played a game to secure her place at the top. But in the end, I didn't take her down. I just outlasted her.